Hello and welcome to the Jewellers Academy podcast. I'm your host this week, Anna Campbell, and I'm so excited to be joined today by my friend and fellow jeweller, Jess Croft. Hi, Jess.
Hi.
Welcome. And this is a really exciting episode because we're going to be talking today about a collaboration that we've been working on that we've just recently released, but we've been working on it for months, haven't we, Jess?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been killing me keeping it a secret.
Yeah, and we've been working on this collaboration and just thought actually it'd be really nice to just share a little bit of like what are our top tips for a successful collaboration, because we definitely have had a successful collaboration. It's gone really, really well. But I think there are some things that we can do to ensure that success. And so that is really what we're going to be chatting about today. But I want to just say a little bit about what this collaboration is, because then I think it'll make a bit more sense as to what is going on. So many of you will know I have been working with Jess at Jewellers Academy, and before that London Jewellery School for many, many years, since 2012. Not this Jess. I'm just confused how many Jesses there are around.
I know.
I know. Jessica Rose of Jewellers Academy and London Jewellery School I've been working with for 12 years. And right now I am the part-time community manager for Jewellers Academy, but I do also have my own business. And it is called The Good Girl Rebellion, which is an awesome name. I know I should, I came up with this, so I shouldn't say that, but it is a good name. And I work as a business and mindset coach, and I work with the Good Girl Rebels. So it's a particular personality type who have very high empathy, high reliability, high integrity. Jess is nodding along because she knows this type inside out, just as we're both in the Good Girl Rebel camp, definitely. So I work with the Good Girl Rebels, helping them navigate between a business startup and that kind of successful quit the day job energy and income and beyond. So I do a hybrid of business coaching and mentoring. And yeah, I just love it. I really, really enjoy it. And I think what we were working with together, Jess, is like you actually were my first coaching client. You were like the first one in when I first started out. Like you were like, yes, this is what I need. Super exciting. But Jess, well, I'll talk about you, and then you can you can fill in the gaps. So you've run a business. This is your 10th year, isn't it? 10th
Yeah.
anniversary year. I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like feels like forever, but also just like it was yesterday starting up my little Etsy shop.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how you started out, was it, with Etsy?
Yeah, back in June 2014. So yeah, started opened my Etsy shop and then branched out to my own website.
Yeah, and you have been changing a little bit maybe now, but you had always enjoyed and loved, just like me, words and meaning and jewelry that has a meaning, and personalized jewelry. So personalized jewelry really, I think, is what I know you for.
Yeah, it's absolutely my thing. And I think that even before I was making jewelry, I would always have quotes on my walls, or I would say affirmations in the morning. And I think it's really powerful the way that we speak to ourselves and just the way that we use words in general. I think it can be a really powerful tool and helps you to just get to where you want to be. So yeah, it's always been like the core of what homebed jewelry is.
Absolutely. And like this year, you've had your gold collection, you now have the Good Girl Rebellion collection. So there have been some really, really exciting kind of new collections and new developments going on. So one of them was this collaboration. So Jess was the first coaching client who came in and was like, yes, I want to build my business. I've been going for 10 years, but I might want to just pivot a little bit, change a little bit, have a little bit of support. And we've been working together ever since, basically. And then because I was looking at setting up the Good Girl Rebellion, and that was something I did this year, and getting the trademark for Good Girl Rebellion, and then seeing you can get trademark for lots of different things. So I've got the trademark for the app and coaching, but then I was like, oh, jewelry. Oh, I could get the trademark for jewelry. I could get the trademark for merchandise and things like that. So I like the idea of having a jewelry range that you wear, like, I've got mine on here, you've got your necklace
Yeah.
on now. For those people who are watching on the YouTube channel, you can see the video there. Um, I just like being able to wear the words that are important to me. I know you also have your mantra collection, which is super exciting. I loved it. And that was kind of where I got the idea for the collection from. Was I was like, could you just do me a Good Girl Rebellion ring, please? And you were like, yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. And I've been wearing it absolutely like every day ever since. And it's lovely because I get to wear words that like are really important to me. It's like the cause that's important to me, and helping and working with the good girls is super important. And that's why I love the jewelry that you make, because I really do feel like whatever word it might be, or phrase, or whatever it is, I think you can get that and you can wear it, and you can wear it so people can see it, but you could also wear it as like a private thing, something that you wear close to your chest, as it were, and also on the inside of a ring band. All of that I just love. So the Good Girl Rebellion jewelry range is a kind of a curated range, and that is what our collaboration has been. So it's mostly been Jess doing all the work, honestly.
Oh.
We were discussing like what words do we want on the jewelry, what will work well, how will it work, and we'll currently get into this when we talk about the collaboration, but how will it work well for both of us, to make it worthwhile. And you went off and did so many sketches. I just loved it.
Yeah, I can't help it. I think when you're really like inspired by an idea, or and the passion gets going, it's just pages and pages of sketches. Yeah, I sent them across, and I was just like, yeah, good luck choosing the faves because I want it all.
I know, and that was what was quite nice, actually, because it was lovely to chat about it and have ideas in your head, but then when you see them on paper and you're like, oh right, okay, now I can see what is possible, what we can do with this, and then saying, I like this, I like this, I like this word and like that word. And then you did a whole bunch of samples which you posted to me, which I was super like excited to receive. And actually I think it was good to get them and see them in real life, because I could have just seen
Mm.
photos and that would have been fine, but it was good to get them and see them like here in
Yeah,
real
no,
life.
exactly. And I think it's important to kind of hold the pieces and really get a feel for it, because essentially that's like the kind of core message of the collection. It's something that you will wear hopefully all the time, and it's usually, for me, it is something that I play with. I'm playing with my necklace right now. You want to touch the pieces, you want to hold them, and it almost makes the message of your jewelry feel more like powerful, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It does. For me, I don't necessarily do it every morning, but I'll sometimes do like a morning meditation, and like putting the ring on is kind of part of my meditation. So I think you can take with anything like this, you can kind of take it where you want to go with it. And it's great, having necklace, having rings, having charm bracelets. Yeah, we've got the lot. We'll share the link so you can go and have a little look at what's there. But really, what we wanted to talk to you today about on the podcast, we can talk about our jewelry forever, but what we wanted to talk about was like how to have a successful collaboration, because I think it can be super good. We're certainly super good for this good girls. If you were like, yes, I'm probably a good girl rebel as well, then it's a really good way of doing that, because it's really great to work together with people. I think we very much, I mean, even as a coach, and I know, handmade jewelers, we're so much working on our own, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that um yeah, there comes a point where you can almost get used to it. And I think that whilst that's great because it keeps you focused, and it's your own business, so you get to make all the decisions, sometimes actually stepping outside of that and getting feedback from other people and just chatting, especially if it's about jewelry. For me, being part of the Jewels Academy was a turning point for me personally, because you start to self-doubt and get imposter syndrome and compare. And then when you're actually part of a community, that you can share ideas and just know that you're not alone, even when you are sat on your bench working on your own, there's the podcast episodes in your ear, or there's the Facebook group, or anything. It's really good to just connect, and yeah, it really sparks inspiration, I think, as well.
It does, it does. And I think that's what we can get from a collaboration as well, because, you already had the mantra collection, which I would say was similar to the Good Girl Rebellion collection. It's just we have just a bit of a different focus. But it was kind of like, oh, but can we just do it like this? Or could we just have, some like that? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. And it brings a new energy, doesn't it? When you're working with somebody else, with somebody's different viewpoints. I think that's always an important part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's get on to our tips and just talk through them as well, just so we can share those. So the first tip we have is about finding your tribe, or finding the right person to collaborate with. And I think for me that it was a bit of a no-brainer because I know a lot of jewelers. There's probably a few people out here who are listening and going like, oh, I know Anna as well. But I think what I knew was because as I said, I'd seen your mantra collection and the other personalized collections, and it was definitely for me all about the words. And that, the way that you make your jewelry is all about the words as well. So it felt like it was a really good fit, because, the people that I work with are very, interested in understanding themselves and their mindset, and all of that is really important to them. And so, yeah, it just, as I say, it felt a bit like a bit of a no-brainer. But what were your thoughts on like finding your tribe and getting the right fit? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's not always sharing like the exact same interests, but I think especially when you're collaborating on a project like ours, it's important to know that you kind of have the same vibe, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
um, yeah, we're both into quotes and meaningful and powerful words, and I think that for me that comes through my like medium of jewelry, and
Yeah.
for you, if you don't mind me saying, that comes through with coaching and helping
Yeah.
you know us good girl rebels. And again, it does help that we are both good girl rebels, so we have very similar brains. I think there's been plenty of times where I've just, yeah, you're just essentially finished my thought before I've even got it out my mouth. And yeah, so it really does bring people together, because if you have that kind of same vibe and that same passion, it feels like effortless. And I definitely felt that through collaborating with you.
Yeah, I absolutely the same. And I think if you're a jeweler, because this is what this podcast is all about, is for jewelers, and you're thinking, oh yeah, having a collaboration and working with an influencer, or I'm not necessarily saying I'm an influencer, but I'm just saying like working with somebody who's not a jeweler, so that you're kind of, basically it's leveraging both audiences a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm sharing your jewelry and this range with my audience, and you're sharing more about the Good Girl Rebellion with your audience. So it's kind of bringing those two audiences together, but having something good to share. Like the
Yeah.
collaboration is what's good to share in the middle. So I guess if I was giving someone a tip, if I was giving a jeweler a tip about it, it's to just look at who you're following. If you're an Instagrammer, just kind of look at who do you notice, whose reels do you spot, whose vibe do you get? Because I think that's a really good point that you just made about that. I think that is important, that you feel like, oh, if I approach this person, I think if we did a collaboration, we'd get on, because that's an important point. But also what makes sense. So I guess I'm just thinking of examples here, and it's really difficult to think of examples off the top of your head. But if you did a lot of sea glass jewelry, let's say, or you did a lot of kind of ocean inspired things, maybe you'd be looking to collaborate with somebody who talks about wild swimming, or, who's that's what that, or coastal living, or maybe they do interiors, or they do, other things that are kind of associated within that. So I think there are ways to kind of think a bit laterally about who you could partner with. And have you got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, and I think it's even like I said, just like if you're looking through your social media or your Instagram, it's the kind of, maybe not necessarily the big brands, but the people who you can't wait to see their content because you just
Yeah.
connect with it so much. And you just think, oh, or maybe I haven't seen them for a while, and then you actively go on their profile and like, oh, I want to see what they're up to, because like you say, they love coastal living, or they're really passionate about the environment or the materials that they use, and it really like gels with your ethos, not just as like your brand,
Yeah.
or your business, but you personally, because I think most small businesses, that they are a manifestation of your own personal morals, ethoses, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
um and so you find those people, and it's those people that you get excited when you see their work, or when you hear them talk. Like I get super excited when your videos come up, and I'm just like, yes, I totally understand that. I'm like, yes, that's me, totally me. And yeah, I think that's where it comes from. Really, it comes from something a bit deeper than just, oh well, I think visually we would look good together, or like this would suit
Yeah.
that brand. Mm.
I think that's really true, because I think, if you're going to do a collaboration and it's going to work well, you're going to be working fairly closely together for a few months, if not long, and longer. So you do need to feel like I could probably have a cup of coffee with this person. Do you know what I mean? A cup of tea. Like you feel like, oh, actually, I want to get to know this person a little bit more. And I think having that basic kind of core values, core vibe, just as you say, like looking out for their content, I think that's a good sign that it's going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
And you might not want to go for like influencer with like a million followers, not to start with. Maybe do something different before that. I'm not saying don't go there, but that could be like, it could be good like to practice uh collaborations, with somebody who's maybe got a similar a number of followers to you, or just there's something you feel like there's a real affinity that you have. I would just approach them and just say, I would, really really love what you're doing. I feel a good affinity with you. I'd love to work on a collaboration. This is a kind of idea that I've got, but I'm open to suggestions, because I think if somebody came to me and said, I'd love to do a collaboration, I'd be like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? Is that we do one live Instagram, and or is it a product collaboration? So just come up with ideas, but then be open to that
Mhm.
person's input on that. I think that would be my suggestion. Now, if someone was coming to you with a collaboration, like how would you want someone to approach you? This is a out of the blue question, Jess, but what would you say?
Oh yeah. I think, like you say, if someone just said, "Oh, I want to collaborate," I'd immediately kind of think, I don't know, it just puts your guard up a little bit. But like, I'm not so sure about this. Like, but for what? For why? What's happening?
Yeah.
So yeah, just reach out to people. And to be fair, there's probably a lot of people that you already chat to on. I know I keep mentioning Instagram, but that's just the place where I hang out.
Me too. Me too.
Um, love Instagram. And yeah, maybe you've commented on their posts a few times, or you've got that chat going. And yeah, just say that I really love this specific, like this thing that you do, or I love that you're passionate about these materials, or I noticed that you love working with amethyst, for example. I don't know. It could be anything, and just
Yeah.
chat around it and say, I'd love to do, like you say, whether it could just be something simple, like I say simple because I worry a lot about Instagram Live, so it's a simple Instagram Live. Or maybe a blog post that you want to talk about, or it could be something like we've done, like a collection
Yeah.
of something big that's over time. But yeah, put the feelers out and kind of just see what people think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it needs to be a real win-win, no-brainer. I
Mm.
think it is helpful rather than, because I know we all have had these kind of spammy messages in our Instagram.
Mm.
Oh, hey girl, I love what you do. I can help you do this, that, and the other, and you're just like delete, delete, block, block. So it's probably not, you're not probably going to go in with like, oh, let's collaborate. I think it's a good idea to be commenting, to be chatting, to kind of be in their world a little bit, and just again, just for you, just to feel like, is this true? Am I really going to get on with this person, or is this going to be a huge mistake and we're not going to because what someone shows on socials is not necessarily who they are,
Yeah.
not necessarily. And as you said, we're talking about a collaboration here on a range of jewelry, and maybe more will come. Hopefully it will. More products and things will come too. But that's a longer term project that we've been talking about. I should have looked back at when we first started talking about this, but it was fairly close to the beginning of the year, wasn't it? It was probably
That was
March.
around
Yeah.
March time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yes.
released the mantra collection in around February. So yeah,
That sounds
it's
about right then. Yeah,
yeah.
so we're recording this right now because we never know when this is going to be published, but we're recording this right now in September. So a fair number of months from first chatting about it to kind of the product development, the photography, all of the stuff that has to go on behind the scenes, getting it on the website and all of that. It's taken time to do that, and also to be at the right time to launch for us both,
Yeah,
because we had other
yeah,
things going on in between. So we probably could have done it quicker than that, but this was the right time for it. So
yeah.
you could start off with a smaller collaboration where maybe you do a giveaway for each other's audiences. Maybe you do a joint giveaway. You've got jewelry and they've got something else that they can share, and perhaps you do a giveaway and see how that goes, and then go, okay, well, that's gone well and worked really well. What about something new? We kind of went straight in on the like
Yeah.
the full on collaboration. We didn't do any of that stuff, but
Yeah.
that was what felt right, I think so.
Because we'd already kind of knew each other through coaching and everything like that. So you'd already kind of skipped a few steps, we'd skip those first few dates and we went straight into moving in and go for the
Yeah,
collection.
that's it. So I think it's all about like what I think it's if you for those people listening right now, it's kind of think a little bit laterally about what could that be, what could be the win-win benefit, like whose audience would it be great for you to get in front of, and then that their audience gets in front of yours as well. So it's working on like where could that fit in, how could we do that, and that's good. Let's get on to tip number 2, which I think we've kind of said a little bit about, but it's around aligning your vision and making sure you're both on the same page, I think. What do you think about this one? I mean, because I feel like I had a bit of a vision. I just went blur and said lots of stuff. And then
Yeah.
you went and got your sketch pad out, and then that was kind of where it went. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you think that's what happened, but
Yeah, I think you said the vision, and immediately I was like, yes, yes, let's do this. Like it was a very kind of um gut reaction, intuitive kind of like this feels like this could be something really, really great. And it is about kind of taking the time to chat about maybe what you're expecting from the collaboration, whether that is that you want to increase your followers or you want to maybe just connect more with people, um, whether it's that the brand or the business that you're working with. Yeah, or increase visibility, or just like for us, it was creating something brand new,
yeah,
essentially, and showing that to both our audiences, because we thought both. That's the thing. For me, it was a no-brainer because I just thought it's so relatable to my customers who buy my jewelry, and but it also brings in the Good Girl Rebellion and that kind of the coaching that you do and those Good Girl Rebels, and because a lot of my customers, I think, would be good girl rebels. So it is that kind of, bringing two awesome things together.
Yeah, absolutely, it is, and I think that's why it is important to kind of be clear on that and have that same vision, and to be honest with your feedback and your communication. It's like, no, that's not quite the right thing. You have to be, you have to kind of have that confidence to be able to say that, because you don't want to go down a road and then you'd be like, actually, no, I should, I
Mm,
this wasn't quite right, and I should have realized further back, because I think you don't want to waste either one of your time. We're both in business, and we don't have infinite time. We want it to be worthwhile for many reasons. Like you said, I mean, it's about selling jewelry, but it is also about that meaning that we have, that sharing resources, that being visible to each other's audiences, and it's all about lots more than just sales, isn't it? um
yeah.
and I think if you both have a similar vision, you don't have to have the same reasons to do it, I don't think necessarily. But I
Yeah.
think if the project gets you both to where you both want to go, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think, as like you said, you can kind of go down the route of collaborating, and if you're not aligned, like right at the beginning, you will keep going further down and feeling like it's just not quite right, or there's something not quite gelling, or
Yeah,
maybe it's not the project that you thought it was going to be. And I think that can create a lot of friction and a lot of tension. So it's best to kind of be upfront and honest at the start and just be like, look, this is what I want to do, and this is how I see it going. Um, Obviously, no one can predict, and we'll probably talk about that later, where it goes and what happens during a collaboration. But having that core value and that core goal that sees you through the whole project, because you constantly relate back to that, I think. And if you're feeling like it's not what you expected, like I say, brings up a lot of tension, maybe like a little bit of resentment, and it just makes the whole process just not very enjoyable.
yeah.
And that's not, it's just not worth it for anybody. If it's not enjoyable, then what's the why are we doing it?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely so true, and I think it comes into a little bit. I mean, there's a few tips that kind of move into very similar things, and the next one is about respect, and just feeling that it is, you're working with somebody that you respect and that there's mutual respect there. And I think that's really, really important, because like we said, it could be a short-term thing and you're just doing like a one-off competition, like I said, or something, you're doing a giveaway, or I don't know, there could be lots of different ways of doing a collaboration, and so maybe it doesn't matter quite as much, because we've been working on this for many months.
Yeah.
We need to respect each other's opinions on things, but we need to really, I think, to have been on the same page, because I think if you'd come up with a whole load of designs and I went, oh no, I don't like, that's not my style, or that's not what I want, or that's not what I had in mind, I could easily have just gone back and just said, no, that's not exactly
Mhm.
it. But what was great was, it was like, okay, now how are we going to narrow this down? There's too many ideas here. Like, what are we going to do? And it was around that, and then it became a little bit around a conversation about, well, some of these pieces are awesome, but they'll probably take a lot longer to make, which means, and a lot more skill to make, and which means that the price is going to need to be a bit higher, maybe for the audience that we have. And there was those kind of conversations, weren't there? So it wasn't like the things that weren't what I loved. I was basically the same as you. I was like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
it. But sometimes, you kind of go in with that gut feeling of like, yes, I get it on with this person, I respect this person, I'm really excited to work with this person. But then there are some kind of logistical sides of it as well, like,
Yeah,
how is this
exactly.
going to work out? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's respecting each other's skills and opinions, because you know, for me, obviously you are in the jewellery industry, so there was a lot of uh, I could sidestep a lot of conversations about how the jewellery is made because you kind of understood it.
Yeah.
So it was easy to just say, well, I could change this for this. But again, it was about I felt personally that you respected a lot about my knowledge of jewellery making, that it might be different to how you've made jewellery and why I thought that maybe this might work above this. And we kind of could chat it out because like, you know, I respected your opinion, you respected my opinion as well. Um, so it is on a skill front as well, and um, respecting each other's boundaries and timescales because we, like you said earlier, we could have just whizzed through the collection because you know I had very much kind of
It
golden
was ready.
retriever energy. Like I was just like, yes, let's do this. But you know, there's a lot of things that go into specifically for us that building a collection, and like you said, the logistics and the costings, pricing. You've got to have those awkward, difficult conversations, and if you don't bring respect to the table, it can make it really you kind of avoid a lot of things, I think. And for me, I know that you were great with marketing and social media, and so I would listen to a lot of your advice about, well, maybe we should about time frames, and if we're, you know, posting this here, and you know, working with that. And I was making the pieces, so it was a lot of logistics, getting the materials together, getting them ready for photography,
Yeah.
and that had to go essentially on my time frame because it
Yeah.
was me making the things, and vice versa. If there's a lot of copy that needs doing, you got to work that in, and you can't do that without respecting each other's boundaries, timescales, and the skill sets that we both have because you know it's important.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's such a good point. And I think if you are a jeweler and you were doing a jewelry collaboration with somebody else who is a non-jeweler and doesn't understand jewelry, so you have a lot of the kind of advanced and fine jewelry making skills I know about. I don't have myself, but I know a lot about them. And so I understand, you know, if I'm going to say to you, I want you to make a locket and I want it to be like this, and I want it to have this, and I want to have it a gemstone inside, and, you know, I know how much time that will take to make,
Yeah.
and also like expertise that you have to make it. And therefore, I know that what kind of cost that will need to be to make it worth your
Mhm.
while to do that. But if you're talking to a non-jeweler, you have to remember that they won't necessarily understand that. And it's not to get resentful about it, but it's just to remember to have that conversation. I can say, I think you should make this really big locket in gold, and it should have diamonds encrusted pave around it, you know, whatever. If I can say all of that and your face will be like, oh, no, that's going to take me a month to make and it'll cost, you know, X amount, you know, it's not going to be relevant to this kind of collection. But, you know, if you're a fine jeweler and that's the kind of collection that will work in your collaboration, fantastic. And the price point works for you as well. So I think it's all about just remembering and respecting who you're talking to and what their knowledge and understanding is of what you do. Because with jewelers, we're very technical, and I think we can sometimes forget how much, like, the depth of knowledge that we have.
Mm, absolutely.
You
Yeah, I
know,
think that there
yeah,
was
go.
one of the designs. Yeah, there was one of the designs that we were looking at, and I think we were both really excited about it.
Yeah,
But when it came to it, and actually me spending time at the bench and actually making a sample, it quickly became apparent that it would take so much time to do that it wasn't really viable for the type of collection and the type of, again, a vision that we had and that we've kind of set in motion. It just wasn't right for that. So it was coming to the table and saying, look, I know we both love this idea, but for me, making this piece is going to take a lot of time, and whilst maybe some elements could be cast or done in a different way, that's kind of not what we wanted to bring to the collection. So it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And knowing that the pair, like if someone is coming to you with that knowledge and saying, you know, this is what the this is how it is, respecting that they know what they're talking about and saying, okay, right, let's, we can maybe work around it or come up with some different solutions. But, and it really pays off, I think, hearing other people talk about their business or their craft or their speciality, because you can pick up so many tips by doing that. Like, obviously, like you say, as jewelers, we get so kind of focused on the making, and we know how things work in our arena and our department. But then if you're working with someone who isn't a jeweler, you pick up knowledge of how jewelry is viewed, maybe, or
Hmm.
how they feel about it. And not only can you impart knowledge, but you can actually gain knowledge about the industry that they're working, whether it's like social media or I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
I think that's such a good point. And I also think when it comes back to this, I think as the jeweler, you need to remember that, if you're doing a jewelry collaboration like we are, you're going to be the one doing the making. And what you want is to be excited. Like as the orders come in, you're like, yes, the orders come in and I get to make this. Not like that, oh no, this order's come in and now I've got to make this piece. You want the collection to be in your style, but you also want it to be something that you're happy to make, that you have the time to make, and all of that. I think there's so much around that, because I know with you have so many skills and there are lots of things that you can do, but but when it comes down to it, you might be like, oh no, I have to make this. Like, oh, I don't want to. You know what I mean? We could have ended up, not that we would have done, but if
mm,
we could have ended up with something that you were like, oh no, this is the one piece I definitely don't want to have to make. And
yeah.
hopefully, I don't know, but I don't think there's anything in the collection that you wouldn't be excited to get, the order through for.
No, absolutely not. I can't wait to get started. I really can't. And like I said, that comes from respects that you can feel that you can voice that.
Yeah.
And usually, if you don't feel like you can voice that to the person that you're working with or the team that you're working with, then there's some kind of issue about respect. I think that's at the root of it. So yeah, maybe you feel anxious to how it's going to be received, or I don't know, but you have to respect the person you're working with, but also respect yourself as well, and know that you know what you're talking about, and it might not necessarily be the result or the kind of the news that you want to give, but you've got to, because overall that's what makes it work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a back to going down the path that you're like, oh, is this not the, well, this isn't quite the right path, but all right, I'll go down it. And then you're like really far off of where you actually want to be. And so I think sometimes, and particularly with the good girls, we
Yeah.
need sometimes to not just go yes, yes, yes all the time, because it's very easy for us to do that, get excited, like yes, 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 but actually take a step back and just say, okay, well, let's think about this. Let's not make any decisions now. Let's take it away. Let's think about it. And next time we meet up, let's decide. Because I think once we've done that initial excitement of yes, let's work together and
Yeah.
this is really exciting, and then we get into the kind of like the weeds of like what exactly does this entail, and do I have the time to do it, am I excited about it, do I want to do it, it's not just what can you do, but what will you be excited to do as part of this collaboration. Because if it's something that is going to last a little bit longer, like the collaboration we're working on, you don't want to burn out with it and end up
Mm.
just feeling resentful, like you said. So I think that's an important one. Oh, great. Um, so the next one, again, it's all, I think, relating, but this one is around communication and how important communication is around this. And in fact, one of the things that I did, and this was just because it was what I needed, was I basically kind of put down like a list of the parameters of like what are we doing, how long is this partnership gonna last for, when are we gonna review if this is working. Like, in some ways it's a little bit clinical, but for me to feel confident about working with anybody, not just you but anybody, is like if we need to be super clear about what we have as expectations. There's a management book that I love, and I think what the way they could talk about it is like, not everyone was raised in your house, and basically the idea is like, just because this is a standard or this is what you expect and what you would do isn't necessarily what that other person would expect or do. And I think it's that super clarity and that communication was really important. And so for me, setting that out and just having that, even though I don't think I've looked at it since, I kind of sent it to you and I was like, that this, but I think this was right at the beginning. I was like, okay, well, if we're going to work together, then I think we need to kind of just agree on some stuff. And it was around like, communication, how long how long is the collection going to last for? When are we going to review it? When should we review prices? Like, when should we check if it's working? I don't know. It was like basics stuff, I guess. But I think if you then are clear and that other person goes, oh, I've read that, and yeah, I totally agree. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. It's like a big relief, isn't it? That when you kind of, that you're on the same page, and you can only get on the same page if you actually talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much the same. I love clarity. I absolutely love it. I think you can never be clear enough. And I know some people maybe, it might be about a contention or something that they struggle with. I don't like to assume, because if you assume, you can again start to go down the wrong path, and then you realize that the vision's not aligned, that maybe you're not working with a person that you thought as much. It's just easier to set those kind of parameters, specifications, boundaries, whatever you want to
Boundaries.
call
Yeah.
them. Yeah, right at the beginning. And I think that is a massive indicator, knowing that you've found your tribe, you've aligned with the right person, and that you know that you're going to be able to respect each other, because you can communicate that throughout the project, and whatever you're working on, because you don't want to, even even from a practical sense, you don't want to be working on a lot of things behind the scenes, and then you come to actually get together, and then you're like, oh, I've been completely working on the wrong thing. I've got the
Yeah.
total wrong end of the stick, and
Yeah.
that's time and energy that you're not going to be able to get back. So I think that was one of the great things about our collaboration, was we had those regular touch points and those check-in points,
Yeah.
to say, to just review things, let's see how it's going, and and not just let, here's the work, go off and do it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
check in and say, are we still aligned, are we still working on the same thing,
Yeah.
what are we going to do going forward, what are the next steps, because for us it was a longer process.
Yeah, I think so. I would definitely say having a regular check-in. I think at certain points we were meeting like every 2 weeks.
Mm.
Just I mean, at different times it's been different amount of times in between, but on the whole we were doing that. And I think any decision making needs to be done jointly. It needs to be
Yeah.
done together, and it needs to be done in conversations. So we've never actually met in physical life. We
Yeah.
will at some point. I have no doubt it's going to happen. But
Yeah.
at the moment, this is one of the amazing things about Zoom, is that we can get to know each other really well, and we can chat and we can talk to each other and we can look at each other. It's not just on the phone. I think that does help too. But
Mm.
just we had those moments, and we're like, right, this meeting we're going to decide about this, and then we would like decide about that, and then we'll go off and we'd be like, right, okay, so for next time we'll bring, like, you brought your sketches or whatever, we'll bring our thoughts on this, and then we'll decide them together. So we're not going off on different tangents in the wrong direction. Like, we're actually working on it together. I think that was good, because it meant that we could use that time and we could be really focused with that time when we're working together, and then do our own little bit separately as well when we, and then come back together again and just check in. And so being able to do that and have that, have that check-in time, but also know like how long certain things will take. Because I think sometimes you can end up working with somebody and then maybe they just don't really have the capacity to do it. like right now,
Mm.
and you want to get it done, and you're like, oh, okay, but the other person you meet again and like, oh, we haven't done this and I haven't done that, and then you just, I was very fortunate because because you were doing the jewelry, you had to kind of do everything mostly. It was just about us chatting and coming together in between. um but you would have the sketches, we would discuss which ones you do, and then you'd go off and you made some kind of copper examples and then in silver, and then you sent them to me and then kind of sent them back, and then they went to the photographer. So it was all of these processes that have to happen, and you have to know that I think that the other person is having this as their, not their only priority, but that it is a priority for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that being able to communicate with someone and being able to chat openly and freely, without judgment or any kind of like, you know, tension, it does help because when you are meeting up regularly and you are kind of saying, "Oh, this is what I've done," and you'll chat about it, and you can go off from there. Um, it just I feel like every time we kind of met up, it kind of reignites like that little excitement, and it's just like, yep, we're on the same page and we're channeling it, and it means that you're working alongside someone. You're going through the whole process with someone, especially for us if it was a longer process.
Hmm.
That you having those regular check-ins,
Yeah.
um, because I mean, I can't even imagine what it would have been like if we just didn't speak for months, and then you suddenly come together, and then it's all the work, and it's overwhelming. So it
Yeah.
helps to break it down into like digestible chunks, really. And like you say, it's if you know that you're working with the right people, um, it's easier to talk about things, and it can be difficult. There are difficult parts of the process, more difficult subjects like pricing or like
Hmm.
time frames, and sometimes, and if you're not in open communication with someone, there might be times where, like for us, it was a longer period of time.
Hmm.
So maybe I think during that time I had the another collection launch,
Yeah.
so it was I was a little bit more hands off, but because we were transparent about timetables and kind of what was
Yeah.
going on, it was very easy to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to do as much work on this collection or this collaboration then, but after that, I can come back to it, and we can work together.
Yeah, that was it. And I also had a launch, and I was like, well, I don't really, you were ready to go earlier than me, really, because you had your gold collection. And then after that, you were like, okay, well, I'm kind of ready to go now. But I was like, well, I've got a launch and I want to get that done. And I wanted to be able to have the focus on one thing rather than having multiple messages going out. So it was like, well, actually, I think it's going to be better if we can delay, and then we can both be kind of singing from the same song sheet thing again. But I
Mm.
think coming back to that idea about boundaries, um, I think again for the good girls particularly, but I think it's everybody really. It's around just being as we said, the whole thing I guess is all around about just communication and clarity. And I think if you if you have certain things that you expect, it's worth writing them down and sharing them and just saying, what do you think about this? What would you add to this? It's not about me saying this is what we need to do, and get in line kind of thing. But it was more like, well, these are the things I've been thinking about. Like, does this fit in with what you're thinking about? What would you add? And it was always that energy, I think,
Mm.
of one
Yeah.
person saying, let's do this, and the other person going, oh yes, and it was very much a yes and
Yes, and
rather than a no, no, let's not
yeah.
do that. There was always that kind of yes and. So it did make it so much more fun and easier. Okay. So the next thing on the list is around perspective and different perspectives. And I think we've kind of said a little bit more about this already, but for me, I think this is about yeah, it's about kind of playing to each other's strengths, isn't it? It's about knowing, and again, you might not know the person that well to start with, but it's about kind of getting to know that person and their strengths. And like you said, I was I know a little bit about jewelry making, and I was kind of then deferring to you on saying, well, how long will this take to make? And when we were on the pricing, I was like, I'm sure that will take you longer than that on the pricing spreadsheet. You need to give yourself, like, we need to pay you more for that, because I'm sure it's going to take a bit longer than that, that kind of stuff. But then when it came to like the social media side, because that's been the work that I've done for quite a long time, we worked on it together, but I kind of led a little bit more on that, whereas I think you led in terms of like the jewelry designs and what's doable, what's going to work, what's going to be commercial. I think
Mm.
that was how we did it, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of playing to each other's strengths, really.
Yeah.
But simultaneously not kind of saying, well, this is your thing, so I'm just going to leave you to do that.
No,
Yeah, it
definitely
was
not.
very much, kind of working together. But like I say, when it's, maybe the more of the marketing side, it was just I will kind of take your lead on something like this, but still input in and giving my ideas. And
Definitely.
that's where it comes into the perspective. Um, my perspective was as a jewelry designer, and yours would be as a coach or with the marketing and things like that. Uh, we'll approach the same task in maybe not very different ways, because again, we're very aligned, but uh, yeah, from just a different kind of viewpoint. And I think you can learn a lot from that, um, from just
Yeah,
knowing.
yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, I definitely feel like we did, as this project kind of went on, it was so great. And it was kind of like it was almost the questions that you ask, the other person asks, you're like, oh yeah, okay. And then you realize something that you knew that you've forgotten that you'd known, if that makes sense. It's again about that,
Mm,
that unconscious competence that we get when we're good at something, and we're very, we just do it without really thinking about it. And then the other person who's not, not, that's not what their thing is, and they're asking questions, you're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's why I do it this way. And it's about just having that ability to go back into that communication side, and just feeling confident and feeling able to ask questions, and also just to say, I don't know if that's going to be right. Like when we talk about social media, is that going to be the right message for my audience? So like when we were coming up
mm,
with our social media plan, we have different plans. They're kind of the same plan, but they're different, like, angles, aren't there? In terms of
yeah,
the kind of content that I'm going to share. You'll be sharing much more around the jewelry itself, and and you'll also be talking a bit about the mindset stuff, but I'm going to be talking more about like why I love to wear the words, and why it's important for me, and what, and why that's important from a kind of mindset perspective. And I really like that, because I feel like then we can share each other's like,
yeah.
we can share each other's thing, but it's talking about the same kind of thing, but just in very different ways, and I just love that.
Yeah, I think sometimes if you're collaborating with somebody, if you're essentially saying the same thing in exactly the same way,
Yeah.
then, because we were kind of like melding our two ideas together, and our viewpoints, and writing copy together and things. And there may be certain things that I I would say, or even like like a 10 phrase or something like that, just it's essentially, it needs to be the way that I talk, and similarly for you, the way that you
Yeah.
talk to your people.
Yeah.
Um, and even though there is that core value and we've written stuff together, it's still from our perspectives, and it feels natural for us to talk about it, and it makes the whole process so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant. It's been such a great thing. I think just even from start to finish, I feel like the whole thing, so fortunate that it's just felt like a dream. It's just been so much
Yeah,
fun. And whenever we've caught up, it's been like, oh, exciting. What's next? It's all been, yeah, I think, as you said before, around the fact that we were very aligned. We'd already kind of known each other before, in terms of just getting to know each other well previous to collaborating. So I think that could be a really good thing to do. We've got loads to say. We've already been talking
I
for ages,
know.
but we'll carry on. We'll carry on. I'm sure if people are still listening to the podcast, they're still enjoying this, so it's good. So the next one is about don't suffer alone, and I think again we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think if something isn't right or you just hit a bit of a wall, then's the time to just say, oh, I need a quick catch up, or oh, I'm going to just bring this to the next time we're catching up, and just don't kind of be there thinking, oh, I can't say this isn't working. Or I think it's just so important to that communication. Back to the whole thing is communication.
Yeah, I feel like again the don't suffer alone. It's like an amalgamation of all the previous points, really, isn't it? That's the one of the best things about collaborating with someone, that you are not doing it on your own. That there is someone there to bounce ideas off of, or when you are becoming a little bit stuck or feel a little bit stuck. I know I definitely did that from time to time, and I'm just thinking I'm really struggling with this copy, like, and you just need maybe just a little tiny phrase or just a teeny tiny pep talk sometimes, and just say, what about this? And it sparks something, and you're like, right, yes, okay, I can get going. Because when you work on your own, and I can imagine a lot of small businesses and jewelers especially can relate to, is that it does feel lonely sometimes, and it does feel like all the pressure is on yourself. You've got to do all the marketing, the making, you know, the whole, sometimes the photography, all the full shebang. But this, working with someone else, it just gives an opportunity to kind of lessen the load. And I think, and by relieving that pressure, it makes the whole process so much more fun, because, you know, it is a lesser
Yeah.
load.
It is, and I think then you can play to each other's strengths a little bit more. Like I love making my mad reels. I just you make brilliant reels as well. But it was like when we've done the collaboration ones, at least so far, we'll probably do some different ones as well. Although actually you sent me loads of ideas. You're like, should we do this? Should we do this? Should we do this? Like, loads of ideas for reels. But I love doing all of that. And so it kind of takes that off your plate a little bit. You're already doing all of the making. But then when we came to the social media planning, I kind of led on that. And, and we even did like a whole email list thing that you didn't know about, like how to tag up, we did some stuff together.
Yeah.
But then you're using your expertise in terms of you're going to be making the jewelry, you're going to be sending it out, and all of that side of things as well. So I feel like it's about playing to our strengths, but it is also about just being able to just say, oh, I'm a bit stuck right now, just need a little bit of, like you say, a bit of a pep talk, bit of help. Or maybe I've taken this bit on, but maybe I shouldn't have taken it on my own. Maybe I just need a little bit more time for it, or a bit more support, or whatever. But just, it's, as we said, so much about communication is so important, but not suffering alone and being able to brainstorm. And like I think that's a really good point that you made around, we work alone so much, like take the benefits of working with somebody else. Like the two heads are better than one sometimes. I think that's the key for that one. And then the next one, which again, like, as we say, was all fitting together, but is being open to adapting, adapting the plan. Have a plan, but then adapt the plan.
Yeah.
I think it's important to feel able to just say, okay, that way we're going isn't quite working, and maybe we just need to change it and move it and go in a different direction if we need to. Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely. Whether that's with maybe something's cropped up for you personally, or it's cropped a design. I don't want to say a design flaw, but like some kind of something's niggling in the for us. Maybe it's in the collection or something.
And I think there was a piece. I can't remember. I think, like you said before, there was a piece that we both absolutely loved, and we're like, oh yeah, that would be so great. I really, really want that. But then when it came to the logistics of it, we were like, actually, this isn't going to work. And we didn't then just kind of try and make it work and go down that path and make it hard. It was like, no, if this isn't going to
Yeah.
work, it doesn't work,
Yeah.
and there's plenty that does work. So let's just cut that off and just like, no, that's not happening, or at least not happening this time. Maybe there'll be another opportunity to revisit that at another point. I think it's that openness again, isn't it, to have a plan and then change them.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think we're both similar in that sense, that we kind of like a guideline, like a gentle guideline of, we know where it's going, we know where it's heading. But I think just generally working as a small business, whether that's with somebody else or on your own, you know, it's not news that you kind of have to just shift and adapt and make things work, and roll with the punches, as it were. And that happens in collaborations as well.
Yeah.
Whether that's with one person or just as a team, something just isn't working. And you've got to be able to say, well, okay, maybe it's not working, but we
Yeah.
can move on from it. Or yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one, we are on the last one finally. And I think this is such an important one, so I'm not going to miss it out. And it's celebrate the wins. It isn't just about the work, but and I think there's wins and milestones along the way as well. So it's not just like the collection is out there, we're making sales or whatever, but actually along the way there was here are the design sketches. Oh, look, I've got the jewelry and I have it in front of me. Oh, we've got the amazing photos. Like each one of those were little win milestones. Oh, we've made it public and it's available. It's kind of like taking the time to just go, I did that. Or we did that.
Yeah, we did that.
We did that. I think that's so important.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I really liked, that we took the time, like you say, when the photographs came back or when the samples came back, or even way back at the beginning doing the designs. It was just like, oh my God, look at this. Like, this is so exciting. This is going to be so great. And you do get that. Like, I think when you work on your own, you do get that, like, yay, like the casting has come back, or the gemstones have arrived, or something like that. But it's so great when you can share that with someone, and especially because it was like a secret. And so it was just the two of us being super, super excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to kind of celebrate those milestones, and or even just doing a little bit of copying, but like, this copy really like speaks, it really resonates, and like, isn't this great? Yeah, it keeps the momentum going.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about times. I think when I received the samples for the first time, I'm like voice noting, going, and videoing myself. Actually, I haven't shared that yet. I have to. Videoing myself opening it all up, and I can do that now. I'd forgotten I had that, and it's just suddenly come into my head. So I need to make sure I share all that. So I think it's so true. I think it's so much nicer to celebrate with somebody else. And because we've both been on this journey and this project is both of ours, it feels there's something special about that, and I think you can kind of acknowledge it and just enjoy that. And I think if you did a collaboration with somebody, and as I've said, if it was a smaller one where you were doing a giveaway or something, and you're like, okay, that's fine, it was okay, but it wasn't, I didn't really kind of get on with that person or whatever, and I can draw a line under that. But now I feel like I'm speaking for myself here, but I'm sure you'll do the same, because we've had conversations about it. Like, now I can feel like, okay, well, this is the collaboration, it continues, but we might then collaborate on something else again in the future. So I think if it is something you're thinking about doing, there could be a little way of kind of dipping your toe in the ocean, as it were, and just seeing, will this work? Can we, both of us, get along? Obviously I'm thinking from my perspective, but it is important that it feels like it's a proper partnership, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And that and that's that it's and it makes sense, and it works, and it's working for your audiences, and all of those things. There's quite a few things you need to consider when you're coming up with the collaboration. But yeah, I think that's the celebration. We need to do some more of that, I think. I mean, this is actually, as I say, we're recording this in the week that we we only released the collection like 3 days ago. So
Yeah.
this is the week that the collaboration is coming out. So you know, it is also kind of still super new to us as well. So this is part of our
Yeah,
celebration, I guess, just chatting about it and sharing
absolutely.
about it. So yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, Anna, but I feel like every time I see it, like the photographs and everything like that, I'm just as excited. And I think, like, again, summing up all the points, and because those points were met, you know, we was communicating and respecting each other and boundaries and everything like that. Even looking back, like obviously it's work, like you know,
Yeah.
like anything,
Yeah.
it is hard work, but it's just it's so fun and enjoyable, and you can look back and be like, oh, that was so great. And we're still kind of living in the little collection bubble, I think, at the minute, so which is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that's what's nice. You know, I think what we've been able to do is we've got a kind of a limited edition section of it, so that there's going to be things that are there for a short time. There are things that are just we at the moment plan to have available ongoing, you know, as well. So it's there's more kind of coming with it, I think, and I think that's what's so exciting about it too. It's just like yes,
Yeah.
okay. Right. Well, we've been talking for over an hour now. Thank you for those of
I
you who
know.
are still here listening. Still here listening. We really hope that you have found this inspiring. We'd kind of suggest that you take this on board and think like, okay, just kind of take in your mind like, where could I collaborate? Who could I collaborate with? Who has an audience that is similar to mine but a bit different, that perhaps, you know, it would be a real benefit for both of us to come together and work on. And it might not be someone you have in your mind right now, but if you just kind of keep it in your mind when you're out on scrolling on Instagram or wherever you are, and just keep that in mind, and then start thinking about how you can bring that together. Thank you so much for your tips. Let's share where they can find the collection and also find you. So if you're interested in coaching, you can always, Instagram is my best place. So I'm Anna C. Campbell on Instagram, and it's goodgirlrebellion.com for the website. And what about for you? Where can people follow you, Jess?
Yeah, I also hang out on Instagram, so it's at homebed jewellery. And the website is homebedjewellery.com or .co.uk. I've got both of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's where you can find the collection as well.
Absolutely, yes. You can go on there and find the collection, and it will be on the collection website for a long time to come, I hope. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. This is such a brilliant conversation, and I'm sure loads of people are going to really enjoy thinking about collaboration. And definitely do check out the jewelry and see Jess's amazing work.
Yeah, and Anna's amazing work too.
Well, Jess is the one who made the jewelry, so no, yeah, no, it's been brilliant. So thanks so much. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week.